What happens when the life you carefully planned disappears and you're left trying to figure out who you are without it? If you've ever been forced to begin again while other people were still defining you by what happened before, then this conversation is for you.
Driven by purpose, fueled by passion, my words got power, my thoughts have action, motivation, stay gracious, that's greatness, be audacious, motivation, be audacious, innovation, be audacious, inspiration, be bold, motivation, be audacious.
Myself and the other officers, we were involved with him after we got him under arrest. Unfortunately, he passed away of heart failure. You can do everything right in life, and sometimes things will go wrong. That's the universal message. So I was accused with lying. I never lied a day in my career, but I was still charged. I was convicted, and I was sentenced to 2.5 years in prison. And a lot of times we get down a path, and you may have been in a position where you think, this is where I'm going. This is the person I'm going to be with forever. This is the job I'm going to do forever. This is what I'm going to be doing for the next X amount of years. And then something changes your path. And so I talk to people, it's not about your reality, it's about your response. That's kind of my message that I share with audiences.
This podcast is all about helping you unlock your inner greatness and live your best audacious life. And today I'm joined by professional speaker and resilience coach Kwesi Millington, whose life took a turn he never could have anticipated. Today he helps people build resilience, strengthen their emotional fitness, and discover that our greatest setbacks don't have to become our final chapter. And now before we get into today's conversation, the one thing that really stayed with me was something Kwesi said about expectations. Now, he talked about letting go of the life he thought he was supposed to have and found himself thinking about how many of us hold on to this so tightly and the plan that we had. And by doing so, we miss the possibility that we have that's right in front of us. You know, that's just one of the many directions this conversation takes. You know, personally, I walked away reminded that resilience isn't just about getting back up after life knocks you down. Sometimes it's about having the courage to stop fighting the life you've imagined so you can fully embrace the one that's waiting for you. So without any further ado, let's jump into it. Here's my chat with Kwesi. Enjoy. Hey, Kwesi, thank you for joining me here today on the Audacious Living Podcast. I appreciate you for making the time to be here, my friend. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. Really appreciate it. And I'm excited to be here, though. Thanks again.
Yeah, I probably say every single episode, it's just very cool to be able to sit down and engage in conversations that, you know, potentially can have a positive impact on other people. I think it's a blessing to be a part of, because you don't know who's listening, you don't know where they're at in their life, you don't know what's happening for them, and they could hear something that moment, go, oh my gosh, and that's exactly what they needed. And so, from time to time, I've heard from past listeners say, hey, you know, so and so, you guys talked about this, and it made such a difference, and I'm elated, right? That gets you excited because it's a cool thing. So, thank you for doing here, because we could be out here changing people and not even know it, man.
Yeah, well, thank you for doing what you do, putting voices out there and helping to try to change lives. So awesome.
That's it. Well, hey, it's no different. You're doing the same thing. I think we're on the same page here in terms of the difference that we're trying to make. Maybe different mediums, if you will, but certainly you're using your voice. And what I love about the work that you do is you're using your experiences to help others get over theirs, and almost like shorten their learning curve, if you will, right? Because you're gonna go through life, you're gonna have obstacles, you're gonna have challenges, you're gonna have pitfalls, and you got to kind of figure, you know, a way through that. And I oftentimes use an analogy of life is kind of like a pathway, right? And on that path, we're going to have, you know, our boulder, right? That's in our way. And we got to find a way to get up, over, around, or through, because on the other side is kind of where the greatness lies, right? And so the idea is to push through that. You have, I was going to say, familiar with the spotlight, if you will, because of your story that was national with respects to an incident at the airport as a former RCMP officer. But for me, that's not the real story, right? The real story happens after these situations take place. And so maybe as a starting point, I can get you to introduce yourself to our audience, talk about, you know, the work that you've done and what's got you to the point that you're at now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so I'm a speaker, Yeah, Kwesi Millington is my name. I'm a speaker now. I used to be an RCMP officer, and the incident that you're referring to is years ago when I was an officer. I was called in to respond to a man who was destroying luggage and breaking property at Vancouver Airport, and it was nationally publicized at the time. And I showed up at the airport. Unfortunately, I had to get in an altercation with the man that was destroying the property. And after myself and the other officers, we were involved with him. After we got him under arrest, unfortunately, he passed away of heart failure. And these types of things can happen on your job. You do everything that you're supposed to do, everything that your training indicates that you're
Right.
supposed to do, but something can still go wrong. And the parallel to that is when I speak to young people, I speak in schools, K to 12 to students. I also speak in universities and I speak in corporate and to first responders. And with the older audiences, I always say, you can do everything right in life and sometimes things will go wrong. That's the universal message. Even
Yeah.
though it's in my case, you may never have dealt with having to get physical with someone in a policing career. You've had a situation in your life where you did everything you thought you were supposed to do and something went wrong. And how do you deal with that? And for me, as an officer, I went back to work. I was told, hey, listen, you did what you're supposed to do. You go back to work. A couple of years later, though, I testify about what I did at the airport. And coming out of that testimony, I was charged with perjury, which basically means you lied about what you said in court, which is ridiculous because I was told, hey, listen, you did everything you were supposed to do. And I had no reason to lie. There was a video actually recorded of what happened at the airport. So I was never in a position where I thought I have to hide anything or cover up
Right.
anything.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I made some mistakes in my testimony because it was a 2 year gap between when I actually went to the call and when I
Right.
had to testify about it. And if someone asked you, oddly, if some about something you did 2 years ago, give me all the details of something you did 2 years ago, would you forget
I'm
some
struggling with
things?
2 weeks,
Even a
man.
couple of things, right? 2 hours ago sometimes. So I was accused with lying. I never lied a day in my career, but I was still charged. I was convicted and I was sentenced to 2.5 years in prison.
Mm,
And that was the end of my policing career.
right.
So that forced me to say, you know what, I'm not going to be doing this for 25 years. And a lot of times we get down a path and you may have been in a position where you think this is where I'm going. This is the person I'm going to be with forever. This is the
Sure.
job I'm going to do forever. This is what I'm going to be doing for the next X amount of years. And then something changes your path. And so I talk to people, it's not about your reality, it's about your response. That's kind of my message that I share with audiences. And I got that from my mother because I was raised as a single, by a single mom. And she always told me that you're going to face unfair, uncontrollable, and unpredictable things in your life. But it's not your reality, it's how you respond to them that matters. And that's the message I share
Yeah.
now as a professional speaker all over North America.
The idea of going through something, you know, like no one likes to be accused of anything, that especially when they know that they're in the right and they didn't do anything wrong and they operated appropriately. um it's hard, right? It's really hard to accept that. What kind of things did you helped you sort of move through that and accept the reality of the situation?
That's funny. What kinds of things? And there's always phases, right? There's something that helps you along the way. Maybe you read a book that
Yeah.
helps you at a certain point, or someone gives you some advice, or you learn a hard lesson along the way. A few of the things that I've done, number one is I've tried to release expectations for what my life should look like. So I used to have an expectation that I was going to be a police officer 25 years for 25 years, right? A lot of police officers, they know the day they're going to retire. It's one of those jobs where you basically count down, you say, okay, I got X amount of years left.
Yeah.
This is what I'm going to do after, and you plan it out. And so I planned it out, and I realized that in life you can't plan things. God, you make plans and God laughs. I think that's the line, right? Make plans, God laughs. So I've learned kind of not to eh, set rigid expectations on my life, and that's helped
Hmm.
a lot.
Hmm.
Um, just things I did while I was in prison, prayer, meditation, physical fitness. These are things that have now become cornerstones of my life that I know can get me out of a mood that I'm in. And they're just things that you've probably heard before, but they work. That's why you've heard them before. So there's so many things I've done. That's a few of them.
Got you. The idea of sort of navigating even like public scrutiny and I guess judgment and these things that are associated with your experience. What was your strategy around how you dealt with that? You just ignored the haters kind of deal, or would you? How'd you move through that?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the mood I'm in, right? Some days I'm in a great mood and I just went to a school and I delivered a great speech and kids were talking to me, or I went to an event and things went really well, and then I see someone write some hate or something. Then those are easy days to ignore the haters, as they say, right? But there are days when sometimes something will be said and it kind of gets under your skin a little bit. And there have been times when I've thought, oh, I'm going to write this person back to try to help them understand my side of
Right,
the situation. But I realize that some people are not trying to understand. Some people like to be mired in misery. They like to be all about confrontation, and they're not looking for a resolution. They're not looking to try to get along with someone. They're looking to throw something out there and just be a microphone or a megaphone for hate. And
right.
those are people that I just have to let go. And so I don't let it bother me anymore because there's so many positive things that I'm trying to do in the world
I love that
that
approach.
the negative attitudes I get, I've learned to kind of say, you know what, there's always going to be those people. I can't do anything about it.
So the part about your story that I think is really powerful is around the manner in which you essentially reclaim the narrative, right? Like, so there will be people telling your story and telling you and explain and framing you and maybe putting you in their box or putting you in their shelf or telling you what you're all about. But it's very clear that you again you ignored the haters, like you said, but you also took in back that narrative. Do you remember the sort of the moment that you did that? Because there's a point I'd imagine these things are happening, they're just happening to you until you finally get enough is enough. I'm gonna take over. Do you remember what that moment was like, or a series of moments?
Yeah, actually, I had a friend and his name is Frank, and him and I used to go to Toastmasters clubs together. And
Okay.
Toastmasters is a speaking organization, and we used to work on our speeches. And at the time, I was kind of thinking maybe I might want to do a little bit of speaking, get out there and just kind of share my story in the hopes that it would help someone. But every time I would go online and Google my name, or I would, go check my email or check my YouTube channel or something, I'd see someone wrote something else. And I told my friend, I said, Frank, all the time people are writing me. And every time you Google my name, there's like something, that's come up with the case. And it always seems kind of negative. And he said, you know what? Then it's your job to bury that shit. That's what he said. It's your job to bury that shit. And I'll never forget that. And I'm a Christian. I don't swear very much, but I love that he said that
Hmm.
because it reminded me that now I get to put things out there that when you Google my name, you're always going to see my story. You're always going to
Yeah.
see my history, but you're also going to see that I'm out there doing good things in the world. And so I just became fixated on that mindset that I'm going to bury the negative by putting out so much positive that at least it dilutes it, right? So you're
Yes.
not just going to Google Kwesi Millington and see the airport story. You're going to Google me and say, I went to this school and I changed this person's life. I went to this first responders conference and someone said that they're not, self-harming anymore because of something I said. You're going to see positive things I'm doing in the world. And that I'll never forget what Frank told me. He's like, you know what? You got to bury that. You got to go out there and make your own mark so that when
Yes.
people look you up, they find all the good things you're doing as well. And that
Yes.
always stuck with me.
And I love that approach. I mean, I remember very, very I can remember the early days of the internet. Well, I mean, the people are born in the internet. I remember the internet got discarded, right? We're in that generation. But I can remember that, like, it was like, well, if someone puts something on, how do you take it off? And you can't. It's there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that whole idea of bearing it, well, to keep putting good in the world, keep being positive, keep influencing others in a positive way. That's how you eliminate, and in fact, as you said, bury that shit. I mean, that's exactly what you do. And so it's wonderful to hear that approach. I guess it took a long time to get there to understand that, I would imagine, though.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, before I had knew what I was going to do with my life, it was a lot harder because I remember I'm sitting in a jail cell and I had just gotten discharged by the RCMP, and I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. And so when I came out and I was thinking, okay, I'm on parole, I don't know what I want to do, and I'm getting this negative stuff coming at me, I didn't have that balance of, okay, I'm the negatives over here, but I'm doing something positive over here.
Right.
I kind of felt worthless. I felt useless. And so the negative buried me. It burdened me a lot more because I
Gotcha.
didn't know how I
Yeah.
was going to turn it around, right?
Right.
So
You hadn't figured it out yet, right? You hadn't figured
yeah,
it out yet.
yeah. So that's
Gotcha.
kind of where I was, and there were times when that would bother me, and I just kind of had to turn off notifications and just stay off social media. I took a break from social media actually for a while to just give myself a break. I highly recommend people do it because it does give you some clarity.
Go.
But yes, I did that.
Let's sort of talk about sort of the emotional and mental weight that comes out of this, because that's something that you speak to, right? And when you try to encourage individuals and audiences about particularly about the mental toll and weight that comes with things like this. And again, not everyone is going to go through this similar to your situation, but there will be situations they come across that might bring upon that same sorts of feelings. What sort of dialogues or conversations do you have with people around moving through those situations?
Yeah, there's a couple of things I say when it comes to adversities that you go through. I posted about this on my Instagram recently. I said, some in some ways I feel like a hypocrite because I tell people this is how you build resilience, this is how you build mental health. That's what I talk about.
Hmm.
But the best way to build your mental health and resilience, especially your resilience, is to go through something because you have to actually go through it to grow through it.
Mm,
And when I speak about building resilience, what I should really start by saying is forget everything I'm about to tell you. You're gonna have to go through some things before you can apply any of this.
right,
You can't just read about it in a book and you become resilient. You go through
right,
things, and that's how you grow through it. So I say that when things come your way, that is your moment to say, how am I going to deal with this? Because if you can deal with the hard stuff, then nothing can phase you, right? So
right.
part of my time in prison, I spent in solitary confinement, 23 and a half hours a day by myself.
Mm,
When I came out and I was paroled and the world shut down during COVID, solitary being alone didn't bother me like it
right,
bothers other
right,
people. It didn't crash my
right.
mental health like it did a lot of people because I had just spent a lot of time by myself. I've learned how to be okay in my own company.
Yes,
And so it wasn't such an adjustment for me to
yes.
not be able to see, some of the people that I care about.
The idea of having to go through something is not getting people excited, right? They want to know what can you give me to get ready for it when it comes? But there isn't that one particular thing. I mean, can you equip yourself?
Yeah, you can build
Sure,
tools. When I used to be
right,
a police officer, and I always say, your tool belt is your best friend, right? So sometimes you need the taser, sometimes you need the baton, sometimes you need handcuffs. You might need the gun, unfortunately, occasionally. But there's all these tools you have on your belt that will help you depending on the situation you encounter. Practice building those situational tools on your own
right,
before something happens. Practice being someone who takes care of your physical fitness so that you have energy to deal with things when they come. Practice being someone who spends silent time going for walks, meditating, praying, journaling. Practice some of these things so that they're already part of your life. And so you're not saying the first time I ever journaled is after I went through something traumatic.
right,
The first time I ever, went for a run or stayed physically fit or got, you know, started doing exercise is when I went through something traumatic. No, you want to be at the
right.
point where you're resilient enough. And so you can say, okay, you know what, that's a tool that's helped me then. That's a tool that's helped me then, and bring
Yep.
that,
Yep,
into
yep.
your life when
And then
the
what
triggers
happens, right? It
right?
just starts to become natural. You just
Yeah.
naturally, it's your go-to. You're not even thinking about it. Okay, what do I do in this situation? I've heard people talk about Navy SEALs, and they are the most prepared because they're always in training. They're always training in preparation for whatever may happen. Whether it happens or not is irrelevant, but they're getting ready regardless, right? And I think so. The idea of being equipped, being ready, because you never know when you'll need it, and you don't have, to your point, you don't have in the moment isn't the time to get ready for it. You should be ready.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And having a network of people that you can rely on is also
Hmm.
something that really helps. And it doesn't have to be a massive amount of people. You don't need
Right.
like, tons of followers and friends. Just a few good people that you can count on. That helps as well.
What was the difference maker for you? What was the biggest thing that helped you the most?
Biggest thing that helped me. Probably that's a good question. Yeah, what would help me the most? Probably being able to release the past and say what was supposed to be my life is no longer going to be my life, and that's okay.
Hmm.
And so I've kind of carried that with me now. And if I have to change gears again, then I will. And being able to release expectations for what my life or the people around me or my circle is supposed to look like
Hmm.
has been hugely helpful.
Got you. Got you. How important is it uh, for us to have grace on ourselves when we go through these situations? You know, you think, and you can tell me, if, you know, there's times where, perhaps times where you sort of question your own self and doubt, you know, who you are, or look in the mirror and wonder. But I think that's where our level of, like, we got to turn up the grace for ourselves even that much more because of all that's going on around us. How important was that for you?
I think it's important to just be willing to, it sounds cliche, but enjoy the journey that you're on
Okay.
and not have so many expectations. Once again, expectations for what the journey is supposed to look like.
Hmm.
I talk to students all the time, and they say, "Oh, I have no purpose," or people, you know what? Not just students, people of all ages. I don't know what my purpose is. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing, and just do what is best today, and be present to today. What's the best you can do today? And that is a huge way to give yourself grace. You don't have to have it all figured out. Um,
Right.
I have a slide in one of my presentations where it shows that I've had 10 careers in my life. 10 careers. I started as a door-to-door salesman when I was 18 years old, and all the way to now, professional speaker and coach.
Right.
So you're not going to have it all figured out, and don't put pressure on yourself. And that's where the big measure of grace comes in. Give
Mm.
yourself grace to figure things out day by day.
The something that you talk about is emotional fitness, and I mean, maybe you can talk. What does that mean first, and then and why is it essential today?
Well, it's always essential. Emotional fitness. A friend of mine, he's a speaker, and he equates mental fitness to physical fitness, and I really like that too because um, I love going to the gym. So anytime you talk fitness, I'm good.
Hmm.
But emotional fitness is kind of that preparation, that doing things that prepare you emotionally to deal with things, right? So physical fitness is every day you go to the gym and you get your body ready and resilient to handle whatever life brings. Emotional fitness is every day you do X so that you can
Right.
handle what life brings. And so emotional fitness are those tools that calm you or that bring you down or that help you not compare yourself to that person online or get stressed out by the person in your life. And I don't think it's any I don't think it's ever been not important. Maybe it's more important today because we are so busy and we're all, in our phones and constantly distracted, creating
Hmm.
those things that make you emotionally centered and resilient,
Right.
whatever
Right.
those tools are for you on a daily basis.
Yeah.
That's what emotional
Yeah.
fitness is.
And to your point, it's always important. I'd imagine not just today, always ongoing. And again, it's one of those things that we can continue to work on. So you equate it to the gym, like, you know, always work on.
Yes.
You never, like, you don't go to the gym one day and say, okay, I'm worked out, I'm good now. Like, it's an ongoing process. And so I think
Yeah.
the whole,
Especially when you're doing well. That's when you gotta go. When you gotta do those things when you're doing well, right? And so I have my journals, like they're right beside me. I write in my journals every day.
yeah.
And that's not because I'm going through anything right now, but because the habit's there. And so when I am going through something a little bit heavier,
Mhm.
then I can lean on those things.
I've always been a big fan of celebrating wins, right? And what that does for me personally, they're good reminders, okay?
Mhm.
Because you go through something in the moment, it's really easy to sort of forget that whole path and all the things that you went through to get you to where you're at now, because you're only
Mhm.
thinking about this moment. Whereas if you take stock of what you've done, you'll go, yeah, of course I've seen this before. Now it'll get to a point where it's natural, but sometimes you forget. We forget, right? Like, depending on the
Yeah.
weight of the situation, we kind of forget. And so to know that, oh, wait a second, yeah, I remember that time, and oh, I did that, and then all of a sudden the problems that we call problems is like, whatever, let's just deal with this and move on, right?
Yeah, exactly. Tracking your wins is so important. And because we hang on to our failures, the things that haven't gone well in our lives, and we remember those things.
Yeah.
And when you track your wins, like the small thing that went well today, and you do that on an ongoing basis, you're actually retraining your brain. You do that all
Yeah.
the time. By retraining your brain to think of your wins, you will find the things to take away from the losses as well.
Got you. Got you. I like that. I wonder if there misconceptions that people have about what resilience is, and maybe what the truth is. Do you know of anything that people sort of think, well, resilience is this and it's not really that, or
I think when it comes to misconception, I don't know if people have misconceptions about resilience as much as they think that it's not something they have as much control over. And that is, I guess, would be probably the biggest thing that I think people don't really realize is that they can do things on a daily basis. And another misconception is that they're not, people are more resilient than they think they are, right? They
mm,
think, oh, I could never go through what you went through, or I could never bounce back. Oh my gosh, I can't believe you went through what you went through. And I'm not sure if I could do that. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. You just got to believe in yourself more. And
right?
that's all it is, right? So you don't know how you don't know how to get through hard until hard is the only thing you have in your life, right? So give yourself more credit as well.
Gotcha. Yes, yes. I like that. I like that. When you landed um in the direction of speaking and sharing with others, it kind of sounds like that's kind of the point that you rediscovered or found a new purpose. So it was law enforcement, and now it became something else. Is that fair to say? Like it discovered a purpose or rediscovered a new purpose? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, and like I've said about purpose before, I don't put so much pressure on myself to say, this is my purpose. This is what God has called me to do. Maybe it is, but I'm just kind of going with what feels right to do right now. And so I think a lot of times people say, this is what I have to do. This is the purpose he's put on my life, and I'm going to go down this path no matter what. And then if something doesn't work out, they put so much stock into it that they almost feel depressed because they
Right.
put so much stock into it. I saw it happen to police officers all the time, right? They think, I'm going to be a police officer. I'm going to be a police officer. This is going to be my path. And then something veers them off. And unfortunately, that's why suicide's one of the highest causes of death in the first responder profession because they put all their stock into this is my purpose. This is what I'm supposed to do.
Right.
So, do I think this is something that's my purpose right now? Yes. I've been told this is something that you're good at. This is something that is needed. Thank you for coming. I'm getting enough, external and internal validation to believe that this is something that is meant for me,
Yeah.
but I'm trying to hold on to it loosely. They say in Buddhism, you're supposed to hold things, but not too tightly, not
Mm,
be too attached to them.
yes.
So I'm holding on to it. I love what I do, but I'm trying to hold on to it lightly and say, hey, listen, this is awesome that I found this because not a lot of people that come out of jail on parole find something that they like even more than what they used
Right.
to do, which is what I found.
The idea of acceptance, I think, is so important in what you're talking about, right? Accepting that things will change. And there's an analogy I oftentimes use that describes sort of life, the hills and valleys of life, right? Like on the top of the hill, things are great. There's satisfaction, there's joy, there's peace, there's all the things that make you feel good, right? But because life is a continuum, you're going to come to a valley eventually. Regardless how big that hill is, you are going to come into that valley. And that's a yucky place, right? Where it's negative and the negativity sits and it doesn't feel good. There's disappointment, there's pain, all the yucky stuff. And so understanding that, yeah, the hill is great. Enjoy that moment. But there might be a time where it's not as good. That doesn't mean I got to stay in the valley because I need to know I need to get out, find the things that get me out of the valley so I can feel good again. But I think that recognizing that perspective that life is a continuum, it helps you easier accept the down times better because this is part of the journey I'm on right now.
Yeah, yeah. I call it emotional equilibrium.
Oh
Uh,
yeah,
being not so high when you're up and trying to not be so low when you're down. Now, everybody feels low when they're down, and
sure.
we always talk about how to kind of bring yourself back up. But just as important is to not let your highs make you think that my world is amazing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Not getting too caught up in that. right? So,
Not
you
getting in
can go to
God
the
mode, right? You
whiteboard
got this
all
God
this. Yeah,
complex.
yeah, exactly. Where you're like, oh my gosh, my life is amazing. Da da da. It's like, okay, my life is good. Awesome, awesome. I'll celebrate this for a minute. I'm good. I'm happy about that. Because if you're having a good day or a good time in life, that'll end. If you're having a bad
Yes.
time in life, that'll end.
Hmm.
And then it'll come back again. So just know both are coming. So
Gotcha.
I'm trying to work on that. That's something I'm trying to work on lately. Like I'll sign 2 or 3 speaking engagements in a day, and I'll be like, oh my gosh, yes, oh my gosh, what an amazing day. I'm like, okay, this is good. This is good. And so I just kind of keep
Yeah.
calm and steady
Yeah.
about it, because then tomorrow when nobody calls me back,
Yeah.
like I'm okay with that too.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So curious then, when you think about people who are stuck because of what happened to them, is that kind of the message that you share to help them move through those periods?
Yeah, there's, I mean, a lot of messages that we've talked about, and yeah, if they feel, a lot of times people feel stuck because they aren't looking forward as well. Like I say, you can't move forward when you're looking back. If you're always
Right.
looking back at the things that have happened to you, how do you move forward? So what's something you can do positively moving forward? And so I've tried to focus on that as opposed to staying stuck with, oh my gosh, this is what happened. I went to jail for something I didn't do. I lost a career that I love. I can get stuck there. And I have had times when I was stuck there. But what I found was the best way to come out of that is to say, what can I do going forward? What's something positive I can do right now? I started by
Mm,
doing volunteer work when I was first paroled, and then getting into speaking. And so, what's the positive thing that I can do going forward? That thing is always there.
right.
What can I do moving forward? Has been
Yeah.
something immensely helpful.
In what ways has your story helped people heal?
You'd have to ask the people themselves. I mean, I can only go by what people say to me. I can
Okay.
say that a lot of times, depending on the audience I'm talking to, if I'm talking to a first responder who, I've talked to police officers who have been, going through things in their life, and then
Hmm.
I know they say comparison is the thief of joy, but they compare their story to mine, and they say, okay, well, if you can deal with what you went through and be okay, then I can deal with what I'm going through. So I think
Right.
my story has helped people put theirs in perspective
Right.
and say, you know what? If you can get through what you're going through, I can get through what I'm going through. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I've heard repeatedly said back to me, as well as just strategies to take and use in your life every day to
Right.
reframe things that have happened.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, no, and see, I've always, and this is, I mean, generally, this is why I'm a fan of just sharing stories in general, because of we maybe think we're telling what happened to us, but we're actually giving encouragement to others, because you have no idea. Again, we talked earlier, right? You have no idea what people are going through, where they're at in their life, and have no idea what words that you're sharing to give them the encouragement. Go, oh, because it's really easy to think when you're going through something hard that nobody on the planet
Mhm.
has any idea. Like, this one problem is isolated, made just for you and you alone, and no one's ever experienced it, right? And then
Yeah.
all of a sudden, imagine that. So imagine you're in this moment, you're feeling the way you do, and then you hear someone else go, "Oh yeah, I did this last week. Oh, just here, take this and do this, and you're good." You're like, "Huh?" Like, right? Like,
That's why I'm a big fan of reading. Reading. I
yeah.
read over 60 books when I was in prison, and
Wow.
I had the time. So reading about other people's stories and what they went
Mhm.
through helped me so much. Oh yeah, this person went through this. Oh yeah, that person went through that. And it's so easy. Like, that what you're going through is not exclusive to you. You're not so unique
Right.
that that hasn't been something that's happened to anybody else. Everything on the planet has happened to multiple people.
Right.
However, in your moments of low and poor me, you can forget that.
Yes.
Read, listen to stories about other people. That will help you to kind of put yours in perspective again, right?
Got you. When you sort of think of where you're at in life now, what chapter are you writing in your life?
Chapter, next phase of just trying to impact as many people as I can. And it starts at home with my son. I have a 6-year-old son, and just trying to be the best father I can to him as well. And my life at home is
I love
also
it.
my priority.
I love it. I love it. Something that we do here often on this podcast, I'd love to do with you, we do sort of rapid fire. I throw a question, first word that comes to mind. Pretty straightforward, right? Right? You
Yeah,
can handle that?
yeah, go ahead. I'm good. I'm good. I'll do my best.
Okay, so what does living audaciously mean to you?
Living audaciously to me means telling people your story and sharing your beliefs unapologetically and without sugarcoating it.
Yeah, 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 yeah. You said you read over 60 books. What's the one that changed your life?
Yeah, there's books that change my life all the time, and so sometimes I'll go back and I'll read something. I'm like, okay, this is my new favorite book. At the time, no word of a doubt. Sorry, no word of a doubt. Absolutely, it was A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Okay.
it just
Are you?
reminded me of the power of presence.
Yes. Yes, very much so. Morning or night person? Which one are you?
Morning,
Yeah. What's the one word that describes you today?
climbing.
Okay. Do you got like a personal hype song?
Personal hype song. It changes all the time, but I would think I like the song Grand by Kane Brown.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. 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 A fear that you've conquered.
Fear of public speaking.
Come on.
Yeah, 100%. I was that kid that sat at the back of the class. I was the shyest kid in school. I was an introvert. I'm still an introvert. When I'm done speaking, back to the hotel room, decompress. But I was very scared. The first time I ever gave a speech, it was 4 minutes. I was standing in front of a room of people in Brampton, Ontario, at a
Okay.
Toastmasters club. I was sweating. That's why I wear black. I sweat a lot. I was shaking as I read my speech. I sat down. There were four people in the room. I said, I'm never doing this again. But then I remembered a quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson. He said, all great speakers were bad speakers first.
Mm,
And so I kept going. And thanks to that organization and coaches I've hired along the way, um, I still get butterflies every time I speak, but
sure.
I can definitely say I conquered that fear.
If you had I'm guessing if you had were to tell your younger self of what you'd be doing now, they wouldn't be over impressed.
No, not even close. I didn't even get a most likely to be anything in high
Right.
school. It's funny because they gave those things out and they wanted to give me something, so they just said most likely to be in a soap opera. I guess I had a real life soap opera, so you know, I guess I lived up to my most likely to moniker, but
I love it.
all
Is
good.
it is there what's one thing people get wrong about you?
People people get wrong about me. I think that I'm stuck in my story. I'm not. I just use it to help other people.
Really? Think so? So you heard that?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Listen, Kwesi, I gotta tell you, like for me, see, and here's the thing: people oftentimes, bad things happen, or I say bad, that's a label, or things happen that aren't fun, right? We all experience that at some point in time. For me, that's not where the story stops, right? The story doesn't stop at the bad stuff. The story just gets started because it's like, okay, so what did you do? Like, what then? What next? Like for me, it's like, oh, then what did you do? That's where it really picks up. That's where it gets exciting because you now have that opportunity, and you're doing it right through your work. Is that you're impacting others, and you're being able to show them that yes, this happened, but it's not the end, and I can prove it's not the end because I'm still going, right? I'm still here. And again, I talk about the purpose why I celebrate my wins is to remind myself of my own greatness, right? And we all have it. It's not Audley Stephenson alone is the greatest guy in the past. We all have that greatness. We just got to be reminded that it's there, right? And so,
Yeah, absolutely.
and so your everything about your journey, it reflects all of that and so much more because of the way you're having the impact on others the way you are. And I want to commend and congratulate you on that. For listeners that wanted to connect with you directly, learn more about your work, or bring you in as a speaker, where could we send them?
Probably the best place to go is KwesiMillington.com or KwesiSpeaks.com. So KWESI Millington.com or KwesiSpeaks.com. Those are my websites. It's all one website, but it's different pages that you can link to.
Sure.
And then Kwesi speaks on most platforms.
Well, and we will make sure to include that in those details in the show notes as well, so people can connect with you directly. Kwesi, I really appreciate this time. I really truly have, and again, your story was something I was familiar with. So to hear directly your perspective is really what, because if you follow the headlines, you get a totally different story, right? And you know, totally different everything. And so to know that not only that there's so much more to your story, it's what you're doing after. Like I said, that's the exciting part, what you do afterwards, and you definitely are. So congratulations on that, and thanks again for being a guest on the Audacious Living podcast.
Thank you for having me. Really appreciate it, brother.
Cool. Back we are here on the podcast, and much thanks and appreciation goes out to Kwesi for being here. One of the biggest lessons from our conversation is that, resilience isn't something you suddenly discover when life becomes difficult. It's something you build long before you even need it. You strengthen it through the quiet habits that keep you grounded, like taking care of your body, spending time in reflection. Journaling is always good, praying, going for a walk, or simply surrounding yourself with a few people who you can count and lean on when needed. He described these practices as tools in our belt. You may not need them every single one of them every single day, but when life suddenly changes direction, you got to force and pivot. It's comforting to know that you've already got them there waiting for you. The other thing that stayed with me was his willingness to let go of the expectations he placed on his own life. Like many of us, he had a vision for how he thought his future would unfold. When that disappeared, he eventually realized that continuing to measure his life against the one he thought he was supposed to have would only keep him stuck. And I think that's something all of us can relate to. Sometimes our greatest challenge isn't what happened, it's accepting that what happened has changed us and deciding what we're going to do next. Now today, Kwesi travels throughout North America, speaking to students and organizations and first responders about things like resilience and emotional fitness and overcoming adversity. You can learn more about his work, book him to speak, or connect with him through his website. We'll also have all the show notes, the links below, so you can, there's links in the show notes below, so be sure to connect with him in that regard. Now, I gotta tell you, as I reflected on today's conversation, it got me thinking about something we don't talk about hardly enough: how we prepare ourselves before life asks us to be resilient. And that's what today's Audacious Insight is all about. It's time for an Audacious Insight, where we take a quick look at something happening in the real world that reflects the power of bold thinking and intentional action. The thing most people remember is Steph Curry making impossible shots. What they don't see are the thousands of shots he takes when nobody is watching. Long before he takes the game-winning shot, he's already rehearsed it hundreds, if not thousands of times. The game doesn't create his confidence. Practice reveals it. Life works the exact same way. When adversity shows up, you're rarely inventing resilience in that moment. You're leaning on the habits you've already built: how you think, who you can call, how you recover, how you respond. That's the quiet power of living audaciously, not waiting for life to become difficult before deciding to become stronger. And that's exactly what Kwesi was talking about with emotional resilience. If you've enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to subscribe so you never miss a beat and you stay up to speed with all things Audacious related. And if you know someone who could benefit from hearing Kwesi's message or story, or more, other stories like his, I'd encourage you to share this episode with them, share the podcast, let them know this is what we do here on the Audacious Living podcast. And finally, if you haven't already, please take a moment to leave a rating, a review. It helps more people discover these conversations, and together we can continue helping people unlock their inner greatness. I want to thank you so much for being here, and until next time, keep living life audaciously.
Driven by purpose, fueled by passion. My words got power, my thoughts have action. Motivation, stay gracious.